What's going on, everybody? My name is Austin.
And I'm Josiah.
And we are the Super Cinema Bros. All right, how we do on that one, Josiah?
That was great, man. Yeah, we're perfect.
Yeah, I think it only took one time to practice, and we'll never have to do it again. That's awesome.
No.
Cool. How's your day going?
Day's going well, man.
Cool. Me too. I'm ready to get into this review. What do we got on the docket today?
A little Nintendo movie called Super Mario Brothers movie, apparently.
Is it a little...
Probably added a on there that's not there, but you know what? I'm an older man now.
Right. Now, the question is it a little Nintendo movie? Or is it a little Illumination movie posing as a Nintendo movie? We will get into that. But
spicy takes.
I'm just saying. All right, so for you ladies and gentlemen out there listening, before we get into spoilers, we're just going to really quickly tell you who this movie is and is not for. And then from there on out, we will get into spoilers. So if you really want to watch the movie for yourself, you can listen up to this point. We'll give a spoiler alert. And then if you want to come back after you watch the movie, we'd love to have you. All right. So with that said, Josiah, who do you think this movie is for?
I think this movie is for, first and foremost, kids. On top of that, Nintendo fans, specifically fans of Mario. On top of that, people who really love just like a smorgasbord buffet kind of a situation and aren't trying to have a tailored fine dining experience.
Yeah, I largely agree. I would categorize it as this movie is for people who love beautiful CG animation. Illumination does a fantastic job. I would say this movie is for people who grew up watching the Super Mario Brothers cartoon, or obviously playing Super Mario Brothers games on all the different Nintendo game systems. If you like Illumination movies, if you like Despicable Me, Minions, Secret Life of Pets, Grinch, Sing, etc., I think you're going to be really satisfied with this movie. This is a family-friendly movie. Like you said, it's for kids. And really, it's a kind of a 90 minutes or so, get you in, get you out movie. And so it also has some Easter eggs if you're a Nintendo fan. If you're into those kind of things, I think this movie is for you. Now, who is this movie not for?
You should go first with that one.
You want me to go first? All right.
Yeah.
According to Austin, Super Mario Brothers movie is not for people, I would say, who want more than a surface level exploration of what you might consider the Super Mario Brothers universe. If you want really thoughtful, complex world building, if you want a movie that's more Nintendo than it is Illumination, if you want a really well thought out plot or character development, not so much. This is a movie for kids, like Josiah said earlier. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's that's pretty accurate, I would say. Let's see. Adding on to it, man. Yeah, if you're looking for a tight story that has no plot inconsistencies, no plot holes, doesn't bring up things and just leave them out to dry, but instead is solid through and through and winds up being just strong as a storytelling piece of media on its own, outside of the IP and some of the visual flair that it winds up bringing. It's not for you. Also, if you were expecting this movie to take Mario to a height within storytelling, within character development, unbefore experienced in even the games, nah. And there's obviously some of the obvious ones as well. Yeah. If you're not an animated movie kind of a fan, why are you bothering? If all you love is just horror movies or something like that, like, why are you even interested? But if you have any sort of shred of interest in in Mario as a fan, it's definitely worth checking out. It's worth watching.
And the good news is, if you don't really like animation, in I think 1993, they came out with a live action Super Mario Brothers. And wow, I mean,
Dude.
if you didn't like this movie, you might really love that movie. Just saying, just saying. All right, so
Yeah, in fact, yeah, I think, yeah, you're 100% right on that. And in fact, I think it winds up satisfying the desires of the people that I said didn't want to watch, that shouldn't watch this movie. I mean, it's got an airtight story and is essentially a horror movie on top of it.
right. I mean, real Oscar contender. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, from here on out, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. We will be discussing spoilers. And to that end, Josiah, tell me, what about the Super Mario Brothers movie just did not work for you?
So the biggest thing that didn't wind up working for me was exactly what I was kind of stating a little bit earlier. It was a smorgasbord. It was a buffet. It was a movie that was just trying to do greatest hits of an entire franchise, from not only Mario Kart to various different sequels, some of the more recent games, Mario 3D World, Bowser's Fury, references. So it just had references to absolutely everything, which it's fun and like on surface level, it's fun and entertaining to experience. But when you realize that this movie comes across as if it was like going to happen in a vacuum, as if they were not going to make anything else after this, as if this movie was just purely 50% supposed to be selling like current games, whether that be Bowser's Fury or Mario Kart 8. It does that at the expense of a more interesting story, a more focused story with the brothers in an initial journey that would more closely mirror what we got earlier on, and then give us time to develop and space develop story-wise with the characters across several movies. The other thing that did not necessarily work for me was weaker, not as big. The backstory, the real life world they established for the characters. It's moderately entertaining for me to see, real life Italian characters, Mario and Luigi, sitting at the dinner table talking with all their Italian trope family members. And, well, even worse than that, them starting off as, I guess, burgeoning starting off plumbers that are more or less failures, and their family on top of it, just like basically telling them how much of a failure they are from the get-go. I didn't actually really need that in my Mario movie. I wasn't ever expecting and interested in Mario being and Luigi being kicked to the curb by their own family, being told that they're failures, especially their dad or something like that as well. So not something I exactly wanted in my Mario movie. One more thing. The music. So not the actual Nintendo music that's done. I'll talk about it later. But the 80s music that's in there, fine. It's 80s music. It winds up being mostly fine because Mario came from the 80s. However, this is just another one of the Illumination. I don't know if you would describe it as tropes, but like elements or techniques that they use across all their movies to like really heavily rely upon pop music. I didn't think it really worked for me in this film. It's mediocre at best. It pulls me out of the movie every time. Does it try and maintain a certain vibe or a certain tone while it's happening? Sure, but the music in Nintendo, it's like you hear it in so many other places. It's so rich and varied, and if they had just pushed harder into that, man, you would wind up walking out of this movie just the same as when you walk out of, like, step away from playing Mario Kart 8 and just blown away by the actual live orchestra and compilations they put into that game and all the Mario games and even more Nintendo games. So I guess as I'm saying all this, what really disappoints me, I have to admit I understand why, is the big business sort of injections into this film for it to become the massive success that it's become. It has become that, but I think it really could have become this massive success without having to inject it with some of these various different media steroids that they put into the film. How about you, man?
Yeah, I largely agree. Here's how I would break it down. Number one, for me, the issue is the pacing. The best way I can describe it as, if you've ever seen the movie Hook.
Agree, yep.
Yeah. You remember the movie Hook, Steven Spielberg? It's kind of a classic movie, right? Apparently, I think it was kind of panned at the time, but, everybody my age, and maybe this is aging me or this is kind of revealing what generation I come from. Like, we grew up, we were 10 years old, and we loved that movie. That movie was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Watching that movie at age 10 versus watching it now as an adult, when you watch it as an adult, it's a completely different experience. It's still the same movie, but like, whereas I'm watching it as a kid, I'm like, all right, I'm just watching the movie, just kind of going along. I'm watching it as an adult. I'm like, whoa, 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 slow down, whoa, 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 whoa. Hang on. You just did this thing, and now we're already over here, and now we're there. It was happening so fast. I wasn't thinking about the fact that this was like a 90-minute movie or however long it was when I'm 10 years old. But as I'm watching it as an adult, I'm like, everything is happening at like breakneck speed. I don't have a moment to like contemplate or think about it or let it marinate in my mind at all. Everything's just happening. And this movie very much gives me that same feeling where it's like everything's just happening. That leads into some of my other issues with the movie, namely the plot. It's like, how did they end up in the mushroom world? I wish they had done something like maybe they went into an old antique shop, for example, and then they found like a dusty old question mark box. What's this?
Yeah.
What's this doing here?
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe there are Mario Brothers games where there's a key involved and you have to like put the key in the keyhole. Wow, where did this key come from? Oh, what's that all about? Let's explore that. Let's look into that. And then somehow they'll find the pipe and they'll go into the pipe and then the movie can carry on as normal.
Yeah,
and
but what do we have happen in this movie? How do they get to that pipe?
Okay, so they're trying to like fix a big plumbing problem in Brooklyn, some big massive plumbing problem, and they're hanging on a pipe and they don't get to the handle or the lever that they're trying to get, and the pipe breaks and they fall. They crash through a brick wall and they're like, whoa, what's all this down here? And then they just kind of go down and then they go through a little pipe and then all of a sudden they're in the Mushroom Kingdom. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, what? How do we get from here to there? I'm like, there has to be something. Like, in the time they spent doing the Italian stereotype sitcom, like they could have spent all that time instead kind of building out this little lore and this little narrative. Like, how do we connect the real world to the Mushroom Kingdom? I didn't need
but we get that eventually, right?
I mean, we get what? What do you mean?
I'm sorry. I'm leading. We don't get any of that.
Yeah.
We never do.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, precisely. Like we just end up from one set piece to another. And the first set piece, again, I guess they're younger, they're in their early 20s, they're trying to make their way in the world or something. I never viewed Mario as a young man in his early 20s. I figured he was in his 30s or 40s. And somehow, some way, he's in the Mushroom Kingdom. The video games don't really give you any explanation of that either. So fair enough. But I mean, they could have done something, right? It could have been something. And so the whole time I'm like, all right, well, I guess we're in the Mushroom Kingdom now. I guess I don't have to think any more about that.
Yeah.
And because, again, the pace is so breakneck, you have a bunch of cool things. You have like this cool obstacle course. And, it just turns into like a 3-minute or 5-minute montage. And then all of a sudden he just kind of almost passes it. And so Mario's hero journey, his Dark Night of the Soul, his triumph over adversity, it's so rapid moving. I don't have time to think about any of it. And as soon as he learns to do something, he's already more or less a master at it. And so there's no sense of accomplishment. There's no sense of a journey that he's been going on, other than the fact that they're literally going on a journey and they're telling you about it. But you don't get any sense of that. Again, I'm an adult watching a movie that's primarily targeted towards kids, but that kind of rubs on me.
Sorry to interject here. That was the start. That was the start of his journey. I think his Dark Night of the Soul wound up happening at the end of the Rainbow Road sequence when him and Donkey Kong got swallowed by the fish.
Right. It was kind of. I was like, are we watching Finding Nemo now? Like it just felt like, what's going on? Like we barely even saw the fish that are like iconic in the video game. I'm like, we see this big giant like fish monster that I don't recall seeing in any video games that I played that were Mario based. I'm like, oh, like this is an incredible missed opportunity. And that's okay, that's my biggest critique of the film and what didn't work for me. Ultimately, the movie is fine. It's not a bad movie. It's totally fine, and kids are gonna have fun watching it. I feel that with something like Super Mario, with an IP like Super Mario, you have multiple generations that are going to be watching this movie.
Definitely.
Multiple different levels of nostalgia. And it's almost like they made an Illumination movie, they made a Minions movie, and they put a Super Mario Brothers skin on it.
Yeah.
Now, Minion movies, they're a lot of fun. Kids like watching them. Even adults like watching them. I mean, the pacing is crazy, but like the Minions are crazy and it fits. This movie could have been a masterpiece, though. It's a good. I would describe this movie as a good, serviceable Mario movie that could have been a masterpiece. Hear me out on this.
Yeah.
Like I said, we have all kinds of Mario games, all kinds of characters to draw from. We have like multiple games. So this was the first Mario Brothers movie. This could have been just based on the first Super Mario Brothers game. And the adjacent games, you know, like there's a new Super Mario Brothers on the Game Boy Advance, for example, or on the DS, or Super Mario All-Stars, where they updated some of the designs and the graphics, things like that. But everything's centered around the first Super Mario Brothers game. They could have just taken all of that and used that for this movie. Like at no point did Mario have to jump through lava pits in a castle to get to Bowser. I'm like, if that's not in a Mario, like, what are we even talking about? How is that not in the Mario Brothers movie, in the Super Mario Brothers movie? How is he not?
Wait. You're not a massive fan of bringing the fight to maybe somehow real life Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Or you just at least needed him to jump through some lava pits before they got to that wedding.
I mean, listen, that whole scene where they end up back in the quote unquote real world. It feels like they had a bunch of assets and structures left over from the Minions and the Despicable Me movies. Like, we got to do something with this stuff. Or, you know, Secret Life of Pets. You know, we got all these buildings, we got all this architecture, we got all these landscapes. Let's just kind of throw it into a Mario movie. I wasn't a fan of that. Bringing
what gave it first? Was it the awkward dog at the beginning of the movie?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So the awkward dog, again, we have this asset that we created for the Secret Life of Pets. And I don't know if that dog was actually in the movie because I haven't really watched those Secret Life of Pets movies. It looks like what I saw in the trailer. So I'm like, all right, they have this dog and they have all this animation that they made for it. And doggone it, we're going to use it. Whether it's in a Zelda movie or a Mario movie or a fill-in-the-blank movie, we got these assets. The check is already cleared. We've already paid for it. We're going to use it no matter what. I'm like, this isn't a Mario Brothers movie. This is a Minion movie, and you slap the Mario and Luigi skin on two Minions.
I feel that, man. I definitely feel that. That is 100% valid.
Yeah. Like, listen, if you really want to geek out on Mario, you can look at the cover art for the Japanese cartridges, for the Japanese games. They have these beautiful cover arts. And I don't know why America always has to go in and change brilliant cover art from Japan. They did this all the time in the 80s. It was always a bad idea. It always came out worse. But fine, so be it.
I wonder who was responsible for that. I could almost imagine it as like Nintendo Japan thinking that it wouldn't work in America for some reason. I don't even know.
Or maybe it was Nintendo America thinking that they knew better. Oh, well, Americans like it when it looks like this. I'm like, No, you fool. It looks perfect in the Japanese packaging. Just leave that. Everybody's going to love it.
Yeah.
And it won't cost you a
Yeah.
penny more to oh. But like those beautiful art pieces of artwork, essentially, you could have treated it as an asset and just made the CG version of it for the movie poster. And it would have been an Easter egg in and of itself. And it would have been a nod to the incredible Japanese artwork of Shigeru Miyamoto, who coincidentally is one of the executive producers of this movie. I mean, he is the creator of Super Mario Brothers. You could have done that. You could have even used the artwork from the NES box covers, the box art. You could have done all that and just updated the graphics. I mean, and they kind of did this in the movie, on their commercial and on the side of their van for Super Mario Brothers. It looks just like the video game, which is actually a really good Easter egg. I really thought that was well done.
Yeah, that was cool.
They could have done that. They could have done all these things and just made it look amazing. And they could have, really began to create a Super Mario Brothers universe. They could have engaged in some real world building and teased certain things out. Like there was no need to see a Yoshi in this movie, especially if he wasn't going to ride on a Yoshi, and especially if you watch the end credits, the post credits scene, there's an egg right next to the pipe where they went through, and it starts cracking. Let me guess, it's a Yoshi. Well, yeah, because you showed me a Yoshi earlier in the movie. It wasn't a green Yoshi, but so what? You didn't need to show me that. There was an opportunity to treat this like the first movie, the first installment in a franchise. And then, the next movie, Super Mario Brothers 2, you can make it very similar to the original Super Mario Brothers 2 in Japan, which was like a way more difficult version of it. And it was and Nintendo America deemed it too difficult for American players. So they reskinned Mario on some like Aladdin's Arabian Nights kind of game that they had in Japan, and they just put Mario graphics on top of it. Y'all could have played with that, the American Super Mario Brothers and Japanese Super Mario Brothers, and the characters and the bad guys and those things, and then and it turns out it was all a dream. Because spoiler alert, if you didn't play Super Mario Brothers 2, if you beat the game, it's all a dream. And then the credits roll just like it did in the original game. This is what I'm talking about. And then Super Mario Brothers 3, it's like a play, it's like a theater performance.
Yeah,
there was a real opportunity.
Pause there for half a second. You actually reminded me of something actually. So you say it was all a dream or something like that. That made me question: does this movie have a theme, like a message that it's trying to send?
Family is important. Good versus evil. I'm actually glad they didn't play up the whole romance between Mario and Princess in this movie. They kept it pretty platonic, and I'm actually glad that they did that.
Yeah, they were definitely digging each other, though.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of glances and stuff that was happening. That they were looking at each other for sure.
Yeah. Thankfully, it was not over the top.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, as far as, like, themes and motives, it was basically like, the power of teamwork, fighting evil, protecting your friends, and, family/brotherhood, and the power and the importance of that. In so much as those themes are central to the plot, I mean, I feel like the movie executed on those themes and those messages, relatively well. It's not terribly complicated. So, I mean, as long as you show them hugging, oh, I missed you, brother, we'll do it all together, teamwork makes the dream work, I guess.
Yeah. It seemed to me that's all there. It seems to me kind of disparate in its theme and messaging, which the themes and messages can be multi-layered, sure. There's definitely the family stuff there, but there was also the establishment at the beginning of like these two embarking on an adventure together, but being deemed as failures. However, they wound up, I guess, still being successful. They didn't wind up being successful as plumbers, but I guess, tapping back into what you're saying, they wound up finding their niche by just pushing closer into family and bonds that they would create with the people along the way, which I guess is supposed to be contrasted by Bowser forcing his way across peoples, across nations, across species to get what he wants, which is also connection, but it's a manhandled kind of connection. So it's not. Yeah, I think the themes, like I said, little scattershot ultimately.
Yeah. And yeah, the whole subplot where he's in love with Peach, I guess it's fine. It didn't really do anything for me, but it didn't work for me just because it's like, I don't know, it was just time spent hit with Jack Black as Bowser singing. Okay, there's a time and place for Jack Black performances. I don't feel that a Super Mario Brothers movie was one of those times. School of Rock, cool. Lucha Libre or Nacho Libre, excuse me. If you want to, yeah, that's fine. Those types of movies, that's fine. For Super Mario Brothers, it's just like, why are we doing this? You have such. I know.
Yeah. You're about to talk about, it's Illumination as Jack Black. There was zero possibility that there was not going to be a song from him.
Right.
But in its defense, I did wind up finding it fun. I think Black does a decent enough job, like still staying within the Bowser voice while he's doing it. But I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, like, again, it's the missed opportunity of, like, you have 8-bit majestic gloriousness from the original Super Mario Brothers game. And like, I mean, okay, let's say he was going to do a song or whatever. Like, why did it have to be like a Gershwin grand piano? Like, why wasn't it like a little 8-bit, keyboard, a Casio keyboard or something like that? Like, just, I mean, there was such brilliance in the music. It's iconic. We all love it. And I wish I heard more of that and less, Journey, or less all the other songs that they played that have nothing to do with Super Mario Brothers. To your point earlier, I was like, man, we
So you feel like maybe this movie was aimed at everybody and nobody kind of at the same time.
Kind of. Yeah. I wish this movie was more Nintendo and more Japanese and less Illumination. It didn't make for a bad movie, but it kept it from being an awesome, amazing masterpiece movie, in my opinion. This movie is the story of what could have been, not what really is, but man, for goodness sakes, what really could have been.
Yeah.
That's the missed opportunities bother me more than the individual shortcomings or faults of the film on its own merits.
Yeah.
Because on its own merits, it's a totally fine movie. It would have been fine as like a Netflix show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, that pretty much sums up my feelings on what didn't work. It was the opportunities that they didn't take advantage of, that didn't capitalize on. Given everything, all the assets, all the art, all the music, all the history of Super Mario Brothers. Yeah, that's kind of my takeaway about what didn't work.
Do you feel like this is the film they intended to make? A film that was somewhat tiny bit acknowledging the beginning of Mario, but more so just kind of being a. Do you think they imagined a celebration of all Mario franchises while giving us for some reason a new story for them?
Yeah. See, I don't even think it's a celebration. It's just the inclusion of a bunch of stuff from different Super Mario Brothers games.
Yeah.
I wouldn't I don't think they didn't leave you enough. Like I said, the movie goes really fast. There's not enough time to really bask in or revel in any one particular aspect of it. Yeah. I think this movie could have been a little bit longer. Not to like be a Nintendo gatekeeper, like nostalgia gatekeeper. But again, it didn't feel like people that really loved Super Mario Brothers made this movie. It felt like people that really liked Minions and Despicable Me were like, cool. Oh yeah, I remember playing Mario as a kid. Oh, we're gonna make a movie. All right, cool. And then they got some feedback and some, some writer's notes from the Japanese Nintendo staff, and they got some, notes from the studio, and then they just made a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, number one, how are you not thinking about this in terms of a cinematic universe? Because everything's a cinematic universe these days. Like, how are you throwing so much at one movie and not spreading this out, not teaming it out, teasing it out?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get it. I won't go so far as to say that it feels like movie by committee. It's not that bad, but on the scale of a passion project by the video game historian who's made lots of videos on like the making of Super Mario Brothers. I'm just picking him as an example. On the scale of a movie made by him and a movie made by committee, on that scale, it's edging closer to a movie made by committee. Now, in fairness, there are great movies that can also be made by committee. Committees in and of themselves aren't good or bad. It just depends on what they come up with at the end of the day. But I felt like there were more people that were interested in making a successful first quarter movie that starred Super Mario Brothers, more so than people that really wanted to make a good Super Mario Brothers movie. That's my takeaway from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man, I do see where you're coming from within that. I don't know that I fully agree. I definitely, so being within animation myself, I can see a number of things. Nintendo goes to Illumination. You got two different parties that are part of making this film. So you're gonna have two different identities that are coming together. So I certainly see why there's the Minions heart, there's the Despicable Me heart and elements to this movie. Thankfully, there's a lot of love to the Nintendo franchise across it. I think within the pacing and the plot, whether it was who had the most control over it, I'm not sure. It almost feels like the Illumination team had the ability to like craft the story, and Nintendo was giving notes on it time and time again. So I think they probably pushed it more towards a Nintendo Mario based kind of a story. But I think because of the fandom and maybe even the request by Nintendo, it is why they touched upon so many of the different franchises within Mario, whether it be Mario Kart, Luigi, Super Nintendo. I mean, Nintendo Super Mario World 3D World. Pardon. Yeah, that they wound up being brought. I don't know. So I could keep on hypothesizing what wound up happening. I just want to say I think it did come from them being the fans of the material, fans of the entire franchise, but it just took. They weren't able to boil it down to something more streamlined, something more focused, which maybe they weren't even interested in that. Maybe they just wanted to be like, all right, we're going to hit upon all of our greatest franchises more or less within Mario, within this first movie, but there will be more for the second movie because we have so much content, we'll be able to mine so much, but we need to start off really strong with things that are eye-catching. And within that, they wound up settling on a script that wound up being way too high paced, and there probably was more room in there in an earlier versions of it, because there's things, editing always winds up happening, films always get cut down time and time again. Animation is actually not known for publicly, but is pretty notorious for iterating, especially in films, an insane number of times, and just really becoming essentially what this was. And now I think about it, even more egregious of this same thing, Wreck-It Ralph 2, also a video game movie, obviously, where it's just a bunch of sequences that are worked on and iterated over and over and over, slapped together in something that probably is more coherent than it ought to be, because of the way that it's being crafted and because of how sequences seem to wind up being kind of like the focus of things. So this movie has that 100% in spades. I can definitely see it as I focus and think more about it. And that's the reason why we wind up having all these sequences that are directly referencing something, like multiple things across the entire franchise. I don't know that whoever was ultimately in charge of everything, I think they saw this movie. They saw this movie as it was going through its versions, and they knew that, yeah, it was successful in capturing the fun. It was successful in capturing, comedy and interest, and was going to be, got to say it, as an adult, the high pacing, as you pointed out with Hook, was very, very appealing to kids. And they kind of fell into a little bit of a more old school, maybe, approach when it came to animation, where you're targeting more so the major demographic being kids, potentially teens and stuff like that, and tailoring your movie to that versus, I don't know, as people would wind up saying, the Pixar approach in which the movie is written for adults as well, in its plot and its structure and character development. So that's a little bit long-winded, but I do think the love was there. I don't want to, there's so many things in this movie that indicates, whether it be the Easter eggs and the way things are animated and how it comes together, that these people were fans of it. That I have to give that to them. But ultimately, whoever was in charge, is we definitely agree on, they somehow were not looking at the multiverse of things, unless they completely are. Unless they're like, all right, this movie is going to be Greatest Hits of Mario. Next one's going to be Greatest Hits of Mario's version 2, which is going to wind up rolling into maybe a Zelda movie that we're going to do, also a Metroid movie, Star Fox, whatever it is. And then in 6 years, we're going to have a Super Smash Brothers movie or something like that, of everyone coming together, fighting giant Master Hand. Yeah. They have to have the greater vision in mind. And maybe, this is just a hypothesis, maybe they've seen that with Marvel, it worked for, 10 years. I still wind up enjoying some of the Marvel movies in different ways, but all we all have agreed on, basically, the Infinity Saga is a solid thing. And what they've done since then is kind of floundering in different ways, but not to digress on that. Maybe they're like, you know what? Yeah, we can get a good solid 8 to 10 years out of our multiversal franchise here. Let's get as much of the hits in there as possible, because everyone loves these hits. And if you keep throwing hits in front of people's faces, there's no other reason for them not to enjoy it. And then conclude it, and then we will have touched everything, and our pass in the movies will have been done. I don't know. That might have been it. But sorry. Moving on from that, my bad. If there was any more last things you wanted to say on things that didn't work, I think we need to roll into things that we did like about this.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. As far as you were saying, there were some positive things, so let's just kind of lean into that. I mean, I pretty much covered everything I want to talk about in terms of what didn't work for me. So my question now is, what do you think did work with this movie?
There's an energy and excitement to this movie that I think is part of the reason why it's been so successful. You know what? Shoot. I gotta remove the success. I gotta remove it from my mind. Just think about the things that I like specifically about it. So, characters are beautiful. The worlds are beautiful. There's so many scenes in which they wound up creating a moment inspired by the games, that a variety of games that is executed in the most beautiful way. It's not, I don't know that it's necessarily using ray tracing or whatever, but whatever designed lighting, along with colors, character models, art design, like the art design, I think is pretty phenomenal in this film across. This is probably the thing that got me most excited about the movie, as I was looking at posters and looking at the trailers, trying to look at all the trailers, just like how visually a delight this film was. How it wasn't just trying to one-to-one copy any of the existing Mario games, which is being, unfortunately, held back by Switch hardware at this point, but I won't digress into that either. It just, man, it was looking gorgeous. I remember seeing each poster, and then the next poster, and the next poster was getting me more and more excited. You know, the Mario poster where it's the classic, everyone looking in various different direction poster, is super dope looking with its purple and yellow and all that stuff colors going on in the background. And then I wound up seeing eventually the Mario Kart poster where, you got Mario and in his cart, Peach and her motorcycle, Donkey Kong and his dope, rocket propelled, super truck cart, Funky Kong. Oh no, Cranky Kong. I thought it was funky at first, but Cranky Kong, in his just ridiculous vehicle Toad and his lifted monster truck and everything. It was absolutely fantastic. It was blowing my mind. I was so very stoked for it. And I gotta admit, I saw Mario Kart and I was excited, and they 100% achieved what they wanted to achieve with that. Rainbow Road looked super dope. And in a way, it was like maybe going into this movie, I wasn't thinking about it. If this was going to be the only movie they made, the fact that I got to see Rainbow Road and Mario Kart depicted in a beautiful way, amazing. That brought me in, and that still stands on how great it looks and all that, and all that. Let me shoot it over to you, see, if you get your thoughts on that, we can go on to another point.
Yes, on my list of things that did work, I would definitely say that the visuals were beautiful. They were very impressive. I have a soft spot in my heart for good computer animation, and this movie completely delivers on that. As far as the character designs, as far as, the lighting, the camera work, the motion, how these characters move, very impressive. I thought that they did a really good job of capturing the motion of various different types of characters, particularly Princess Peach. She moved really well.
Oh boy, she was pretty bad sometimes, right? Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean they made her very appealing, and like her outfits and the way that she wore, the way that the dresses wear on her, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
yeah, I think visually it is very impressive. As superfluous and unnecessary as the Mario Brothers extended family was, in my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, that's probably if in a certain world, Mario and Luigi had family, that's probably what they would look like. And so, although I felt that screen time could have been spent building the plot in ways that I think would have made the movie better, if you're going to include them as kind of a wink and a nod and a joke about Italian stereotypes to begin with, then it's fine. It's fine. The movie does do a good job.
Martinet's in there. Martinet's fantastic in there. Voice of Mario.
Yeah. And I'll get to the voice acting in just a second, but like just specifically on the addressing the Italian stereotype, they weren't preachy about it at all, but they kind of made a joke about it at the very beginning of the movie. And I was like, all right, that's cool. We'll play up the Italian accent for the commercial. And yeah, I thought that was fine the way that they did that. I thought, I was like, all right, it's kind of silly, it's goofy, but it works in the context of what they're trying to do. So that's fine. I think the voice acting overall was very good. Chris Pratt did not distract in his voice. And because they went through the trouble of distancing themselves from the stereotypical, it's me, Mario kind of voice, it allowed him to just have like a regular-ish voice that didn't sound too much like the Chris Pratt that we see in movies. It still sounded like a version of Mario, and that version of Mario was totally serviceable. It was totally acceptable. It was fine. It worked out fine. The best thing that this movie could do is have voice actors that don't take you out of the movie. And the only time that happened, again, is when Jack Black was singing. When he was just doing Koopa stuff, he sounded fantastic. No complaints on Jack Black's voice acting. Really no complaints on his singing, because he can sing in his own way. It's just I wasn't looking for that in a Mario movie. But that doesn't mean that he didn't do a good job. So the voice acting was really good. And you kind of alluded to this, but I feel that even with all the issues with the plot and the story, at the end of the day, even if you are like a hardcore, longtime Mario fan, longtime Mario game player, the movie is nostalgic enough. It'll get you in the feels just enough. It shows you enough of what you remember growing up with in a nice, modern, refreshing way with really good computer animation. And it's enough. It worked. It's just good enough. Could it have been better? Sure. Could it have been worse? Absolutely. But it was good.
Definitely.
It was good. People. I saw memes making fun of the fact that Mario didn't have a posterior in this movie, as opposed to various games where he is apparently more rotund. I'm actually glad they made him look more like a person for what it's worth. I'm glad that they took the character direction in a way that still looks good, doesn't look exactly like the video game, just to kind of differentiate it from the video games, which also look good. Overall,
So wait, you're saying in this movie he don't have a donk or
yeah,
something
and
like that.
apparently, like people were making a big joke about it online that I saw. I'm like, all right, I wasn't even thinking about that. I didn't notice that, but now that you told me, like, now I know. People were like having like memes, like never forget, like and like the meme with him, showing him in the movie, and then showing him in like Super Mario Sunshine. So the internet has fun with these things. And that's fine. But
That's
overall, I do like the
awesome.
character design. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Even the point where like they're trying to get to their first job, and like Mario's like doing all these like he's doing parkour basically in Brooklyn, but
That
it was
was
done in a
dope.
way that's like that's faithful to Mario that you see in the video game. So I was actually really cool with that.
Yeah.
And even though I hate it when
That
Goofy characters,
perfectly highlighted the pacing of this movie though, and how
yeah,
they go from like moment to moment to moment so fast.
right. Right. Yeah, I was like, even though I hate characters that are just goofy and kerplotzy just to be goofy and kerplotzy, I mean that's even in the games, Luigi is like that, like when he jumps really high, but it's all whoa. And so
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was totally fine. Charlie Day did a great job voicing Luigi. Yeah, the voice acting was great, and I salute them for that. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, the animation, the visuals were great. The voice acting was great, and it had just enough nostalgia. Nostalgia that's going to go over little kids' heads because they didn't grow up playing Super Mario Brothers. But if you played any iteration, whether it was Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, GameCube, Wii U, or the Switch, there's just enough nostalgia to make you feel good as you're watching Super Mario Brothers. And so
Yeah.
I got to give them props for that. That's a thumbs up in that area. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, overall, again, I stand by. This was a missed opportunity, but it's a missed opportunity that still has its virtues and still has its pluses. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, any as we're landing this ship, as we're landing this plane, if you will,
Yeah.
any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. And 100%. Man, yeah, just 100% agree. This movie wound up being fun, entertaining experience for me. And, like, you just encapsulated it though. Like what could have been, which this. I mean, you could say that about any story, but you really only feel that way about stories that you like, characters and stories that you really care about. I mean, most of the time I don't come out of look. I have critiques about every movie for sure. My wife definitely agrees with that, and almost to some degree, no surprise, is like concerned that I don't enjoy movies because I wind up coming out of films having all these thoughts about them. Ultimately, I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed watching this movie, but you just can't take away that feeling you have at the end of something. It's a subjective thing, but I think there is some objective truths, though, when it comes to stuff like this, still, though, as well, that there could have been a better version of this film that did more justice to the characters, to the character arcs, to the overall franchise and setting things up. Simplified it, keeping the fun, keeping it even more exciting, making even more money though at the same time. Now, yeah, so outside of visuals, yeah, man, you talked about the voice acting. I think they did a good job, really good job with the voice acting. Thought Jack Black was fantastic. A little middling on Donkey Kong for sure, and Cranky Kong definitely. He didn't have that crankiness in any sort of way, so, but still fine, still fine.
But
I do like that they attempted something new. I do appreciate that they didn't just try and reuse a story. Like just stayed 110% within one story, within something, within keeping Mario the kind of like either blank slate or confident he can do anything at any time kind of character that he is, in the games. Definitely got me. It hit me in the feels as far as it feeling like just like it was doing justice to the games. Man, sorry. I gotta say one more thing in the negative. I don't want to be negative, but I don't think I don't think these characters wound up achieving character arcs that were any way meaningful or necessarily made sense. And going back again, harping on this. These characters were setting out to do something as brothers, wound up being pointed out as failures. You mentioned, Dark Knight of the Soul moment wound up being weightless, and just hammering that further in. If Mario won as brothers, they really only come together at the very end to stop Bowser. But the bigger thing that frustrates Oops. Seems like it's that moment again where we have some minor technical difficulties. All right, coming back in. Yeah, I just felt like the characters, they didn't wind up having amazing arcs. And greater than that, they didn't wind up solving the issue purely upon their own merits. It wasn't necessarily the brotherhood element that solved the problem. In a way, sure. You had Luigi blocking the fire blast from Bowser. That's a good step towards the way. It could have been much deeper once Mario and Luigi came together. The brothers, two of them coming together in a greater way. That's just a small little tiny element. I need more. And then on top of that, each time Mario kind of wound up. I forget this middle part where they escape the fish, but. Donkey Kong and Bowser, he winds up relying upon a power-up. And I'm like, that's kind of lame. It's entertaining to see, but you want the characters to really be achieving the victory themselves. Now, sure, maybe someone would wind up making the argument. It's like, oh no, power-up is fine. Mario's using his ultimate strength of being resilient, determined, and never giving up. Maybe. That could be it. That could be a part of it. That could be helping it. Sure. I just felt like I wanted it to be stronger. I wanted it to be more so them doing it individually, them doing it as brothers together, them doing it not necessarily relying upon the things around them. But hey, Mario games, you're gonna be using fire flowers and stuff like that. I just want, especially for the ending battle, jumping on Bowser's head over and over, grabbing this fool by his tail. Thankfully, they did that. An amazing moment. Grabbed him and threw him and everything like that. But it's while they were all powered up and stuff, I want to see them achieve that victory sans the power, sans the crutches that would help them get there, Really, really grind for that victory upon their own merit as individuals. Now, the movie ultimately, in no way, shape, or form commits the cardinal sin in films of being boring. This movie was very entertaining. I would watch it again. I would still feel like I wanted more, like I think you would agree, Austin. But I'll watch it again. I can push people towards watching it, knowing that they would have hopefully an entertaining time just as a piece of media. Anyways, I'll throw it back to you, man.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I see. Yeah, I see what you're coming from as far as like the character arcs or the lack thereof. Yeah, the movie's not boring. It's just okay. maybe lacking. It has its faults, but it also has its virtues. Yeah, but it's not boring. So if you like Mario Brothers, go see the movie. Go see the movie. If for nothing else, it'll hit you in the feels. It'll hit you in the nostalgia points, and there are things that you can enjoy about it. And so, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. This has been another episode of the Super Cinema Bros.
Cinema Bros.
Oh man, we got to do that again. Hang on.
Yeah.
This has been another episode of the
Super
Cinema
Bros.
All right. Thank you for joining us in our conversation of Super Mario Brothers. Stay tuned. We're going to be reviewing more films. We're going to keep locking in and trimming and streamlining our process and how this podcast sounds. We are working through technical difficulties and we're persevering through, kind of like Super Mario. So stay tuned, and until next time, God bless. Peace.
Have a good night, jabronis.
Bye.